In a massive pivot on the delivery of social services, Northumberland County Council just passed a motion to change the designation of the county's single emergency shelter from low to higher barrier, following scathing video footage and horrific displays of crime, violence, and drug use proliferating the streets of downtown Cobourg. Let's dig in. On Wednesday, Northumberland County took drastic steps to change its only emergency shelter in Cobourg from low barrier to higher barrier in an attempt to restore public safety, trust, and confidence in its ability to adequately and appropriately deliver social services.
From my perspective, I'm happy to put forward a motion moving forward that we move to a high barrier facility, but in doing so that we make some sort of allowances for the pets, for the couples, I don't think we're talking about homelessness in Cobourg. We're happy to be the most sort of generous community and most giving community. I think what we're talking about is the criminality that we're seeing in and around 310 and the need to address that. And I maintain confidence in the Cobourg Police Service and its chief. We've seen a change in Cobourg. We've seen a movement towards more and more arrests and a massive amount of drugs coming off the streets in the last 6 to 8 months, well before the provincial legislation changed. And we're seeing more of that over the weekend and in the last 2 days. So I would suggest that at this time, acknowledging the issues we have, acknowledging that we need a shelter for homelessness, that we need to focus on helping those that are ready and willing to receive that help within a more structured facility, noting that potentially we look at the option of including county staff in sort of the decisions regarding who and who isn't going into the shelter. And I'm just sort of throwing that out there to start the discussion and hoping that I can hear from fellow councillors on that.
The decision followed a July 18th Cobourg Town Hall just the day prior, hosted by Mayor Lucas Cleveland, where residents voiced concerns about the shelter's low barrier expansion and designation. If you missed that report, I will hyperlink to it and show some of the shocking video footage on screen here so that you can go and watch it separately. Now, this once low barrier shelter at 310 Division Street is located in Cobourg's tourist-friendly downtown near family homes, businesses, and the county's only French immersion Catholic elementary school. However, the shelter is managed by Northumberland County as the upper tier municipality and not Cobourg. But it's Cobourg taxpayers who bear the cost of rising crime, chaos, and emergency services like fire and police, responding to repeated and incessant disturbances. While the move to expand operations granted to the registered charity called Transition House, who had been previously operating out of a smaller heritage building around the corner at 10 Chapel Street a mere 8 months ago, was ambitious, it's wreaked havoc on the broader community ever since. As part of a revisiting of the current model that obviously is not working, Council voted to close the 24/7 warming and cooling hub by July 4th and transition the rest of the building and shelter to a higher barrier by July the 30th. The move will shift focus to those deemed low to moderate acuity, which could be loosely defined as people requiring minimal care or less frequent monitoring for stable chronic conditions or more acute stable conditions. During the delegation segment, a client from 310 described alarming security concerns, including dangerous criminal activities like guns in the building. Listen to Laura.
I had a staff member almost run me over because someone had said something to her which had not been said. She tried to run me over the parking garage. She didn't get anything. No punishment whatsoever except to talking to you about what happened. And security witnessed it happening. Security has no powers there. You guys have approved, I believe it's a $6.5 million budget for security. They're not even allowed to open a door to residents to let them in or out. They're not allowed to help in any way. They're only there to stand around twiddling their thumbs, and most of them are quitting because they aren't able to do anything at all. They're just there in case they're needed to break up a fight. That's their only purpose. You're spending $6.5 million at a low barrier shelter, the security's not allowed to do anything. So what's the point? Do you know how many guns are in that place? Many. But they're carried into the building, but they're not found because it's not a pocket search. It's not safe in there with the way security is. It's not safe for sobriety if you're trying to get clean, but it's a definite needed facility. It just needs to be moved out of the area it is. That is unacceptable. The number of times I picked up dirty foils, dirty rigs, and everything from the corner building, flamboyant. A friend of mine I went to school with years ago has a 4-year-old son there. He plays on the front steps.
Overall, it's very clear that there is a massive healthcare issue in this province and across the country, which Mayor Cleveland pointed to when discussing the roughly 25 to 30 people at Transition House caught up in lawless criminal behavior.
What we're looking at here isn't homelessness, because I think we can combat homelessness. I think we as a level of government in this region, we could actually address homelessness. I think the issue we're talking about is severe trauma, mental health issues, and addictions, which all fall under the medical side of things. And I think we have to really have a conversation about ideals versus reality. I mean, ideally, of course, we have wraparound services. Ideally, of course, these people get treatment. Ideally, there's beds for everyone. But let's look at the reality. We can't even get doctors to cover healthy individuals in our community. We have, thousands upon thousands of people who pay their taxes, who work full-time jobs, who are following the rules of society and the law, and they can't get appropriate medical care. So if that's the reality we're living in, can we stop having these ideal conversations about what we want to be able to do in a magic fairyland where money is no issue? Because the reality is that it's not like the province is rolling it or the feds are rolling it either. They're borrowing and maxing out their lines of credit to a level that is untenable and destroying the fabrics of our country. And so Cobourg does it to county does it to province does it to the feds, and we keep passing the buck up as they keep passing responsibilities down. But this is a much broader conversation, and one of reality versus idealism. And while we will always strive to live in a better, more ideal, more caring, more accepting society, because that's what we should do, we also have to have conversations in the reality that if we can't take care of our individual residents who have low acuity needs and they can't see a doctor and they're waiting months, what possible chance are we going to develop any service that's going to meet the high acuity needs of these individuals? I mean, I'm not saying I'm in favor of Bill 6 or Bill 10 or any of that, but what I am saying is we're seeing a return to 1950s, 60s, and 70s policies, and that's because we're seeing that there's almost an inability to address this. And so I just think as a regional government that spans 2,000 square kilometers, that only has 84,000 people, that combined we only contribute about $70 million to the budget of Northumberland County. We have to stop pretending like we can actually solve these problems and admit that there's nothing we can maybe do for these 25 to 30 people in this county. Because these 25 to 30 people won't have the care they need. They won't get the medical care. They won't get the treatment beds. Because if you talk to the people in Alberta that have treatment beds available, they're still not using them there. And so at some point, we have to make the difficult decision of where we're going to focus our limited resources, our limited time, and our limited energy. And for me, that's within those individuals who don't have high acuity. And it's sad and it's upsetting that at this level, we're forced to make these decisions around people's lives, because no one here wants to tell someone we can't take care of them. But we also have to have realistic discussions that we can't keep spending the money we're doing, having the issues we are, over 25 to 30 individuals. We have 80,000 residents to protect in this community, to serve, and to care for. And while I respect the rights of 25 to 30 individuals, I also live in the real world where we can't even get doctors for all of our citizens. So why don't we start working on problems like that before we start taking on high acuity patients that we don't even know how to help them?
After hearing the gut-wrenching stories about Transition House, raw accounts from both those inside its walls and the fed-up residents outside, I couldn't help but wonder, is the county seriously still banking on this service provider's so-called capabilities? I mean, come on, they have access to the same damning security footage that was aired at the Cobourg Town Hall, showing and highlighting the chaos unfolding right there on Division Street. So I had to ask, what's the the plan? Are they finally going to rethink this blind confidence or just keep ignoring the red flags waving in their face? After what we heard last night at the town hall, some of the delegations earlier today, I wonder if the county has any plans to investigate Transition House as a sole service emergency service shelter provider, and or if they have discussed any plans to diversify these service providers instead of putting all of the emergency services into kind of one proverbial basket. And if not, how does the county plan to move forward to instill public confidence when it has been so deeply eroded in Transition House's capabilities as a service provider over the past near decade?
So there's no intention at this stage of pivoting on the service provider. That may yet happen. We don't know where things are go. We have asked specifically through the direction that county staff take a more active role in certain decisions around the clientele.
And just as a follow-up, the low to mid acuity designation, how is that being defined at this point in time?
We've left that open, moderately open. I think staff have a better handle on what low to mid acuity looks like, and we'll receive that information on July 30th in the Community Social Services report.
In the interim, is that being upheld then, or is that just open until July 30th, just for some clarity?
In the interim, we're just closing the warming hub.
Okay, so and everything else stays the same until the 30th?
Until such time as we receive a report and provide further direction.
Although it looks like the county has finally woken up and started listening to the people of Cobourg who have been witness to blatant chaos and crime around Transition House firsthand, they've seen the glaring evidence with their own eyes and it can no longer be ignored. But will these changes actually tackle the community's concerns or just slap a Band-Aid on a gaping wound? Time is ticking and the community will be watching. For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini. We've been following the crime, disorder, and chaos plaguing streets all across the country at fixourcities.com. If you'd like to support this work and check out other reports, you can do so at fixourcities.com.